quiet ways. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. When I laugh, oh, and when I cry with pain, when my best friends misunderstand, in my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. Dear God, my God, I am Thine for eternity. Dear God, my God, I am Thine eternally. Though my path lead me over desert sands, though it take me through bitter storms, in my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. When I'm working and when in every plans that come victory or lonely defeat, in my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. In my heart, Lord, ever so silently, I will always think of Thee. Dear God, my God, I am Thine for eternity. Dear God, my God, I am Thine eternally. Dear God, my God, I am Thine for eternity. Dear God, my God, I am Thine eternally.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kshini, and this is my husband, Ram. And we are on week 50, living in the presence of God. This is the readings from the Ways of the One Life, weekly commentaries of the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness within in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. In the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 25, we read of a king, capitalized for the references to God, who welcomes certain devotees to the divine consciousness, saying, I was hungry, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. The elect asked him when it was they had served him in these ways, and the king answered, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. To see God as residing in every human being, as indeed He does, is to open oneself to limitless opportunities for serving Him. Paramhansa Yogananda, in Autobiography of a Yogi, described a saint who lived in this consciousness as the greatest man of humility I ever knew. He described a seemingly chance encounter with this saint. Another day found me walking alone near the Howrah railroad station. I stood for a moment by a temple, silently criticizing a small group of men with drum and cymbals who were violently reciting the chant. How undevotionally they used the Lord's divine name in mechanical repetition, I reflected. My gaze was astonished by the rapid approach of Master Mahashaya. "Sir, how come you here?" The saint, ignoring my question, answered my thought. "Isn't it true, little sir, that the beloved's name sounds sweet from all lips, ignorant and wise?" He passed his arm around me affectionately. I found myself carrying on his magic carpet to the merciful presence. If you would see God watching everywhere, if you would hear his voice, listen for it in all the sounds and also in their supporting silences. If you would know God, seek his wisdom behind merely human knowledge. The Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter states, "One who beholds my presence everywhere and all things dwelling equally in me, he never loses loving sight of me, nor I of him to all eternity." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
When that horn blasted outside here, I was wondering, what sign is that? God is speaking to us through that horn in some way. Any interpretations of that, Keshava?
Smile.
I'd like to share with you all a song for the Christmas season. This is my favorite Christmas song. We sang it last night at a little party that we had at our ashram. This is written by Swami Kriyananda, entitled The Christmas Mystery. Long ago there was a little shed, there 3 mighty kings did bow their head to a gentle babe of low degree, whom men call the Son of Mary. Who'll tell to me this mystery, how a tiny babe in a manger lay, could so many hearts to love persuade, this holy Son of Mary? Shepherds came and knelt in wonder there, seeing him in light beyond compare, and his eyes that told them all love was he, whom men call the Son of Mary. Sing with me on the refrain. Who'll tell to me this mystery, how a tiny babe in a manger lay, could so many hearts to love persuade, this holy Son of Mary? Wonderful it was that Christmas day, how from far and near they came to pray, how from far they glimpsed his majesty, whom men call the Son of Mary. Sing with me. Who'll tell to me this mystery, How a tiny babe in a manger lay, could so many hearts to love persuade this holy Son of Mary. Could it be that in that little one Spirit's universal love did shine? If it's true, He lives in you and me, whom men call the Son of Mary. Let's hear you. Who'll tell to me this mystery, how a tiny babe in a manger lay, put so many hearts to love persuade this holy Son of Mary. I don't know if did I miss a verse?
No.
Okay. I remember when I first came to the Yogananda village back in 1977, and the first Christmas that we had up at the meditation retreat was a real thrilling moment. The signs were just literally awesome. One of the signs that took place at that Christmas was a bear that had just walked right by the temple, and my wife and I, we have this expression calling each other little bear in Hungarian. The Matsko come. But the bear is also in Russia very symbolic, and it's, you know, think of your teddy bear as a kid. But you know, it's also that aspect of God which is like the mother, all comforting, all compassionate. And that first Christmas day at Ananda Village had that as a sign for me of being home. And this song, which Swami Kriyananda wrote, I think it really is a classic song. Somehow we need to bring it out to the world to get it known in somehow, because it's such a beautiful expression of the Christ consciousness being born into this world through the little baby Jesus. But this Christ consciousness has always been there. Jesus was one example of that consciousness manifesting in human form. But that consciousness is in every person. And it's up to us to live our lives in such a way, living in that divine presence, to awaken it and to manifest it outwardly. This is what Yogananda came to bring, is this awakening for the entire planet. And we see, you know, the ending of the Mayan calendar. We see the, here we are in December 2012. It's unbelievable to think about that. You know, when I was a kid and I used to watch that movie, that TV show, you probably watched it too, like everyone else programmed in America and programmed throughout the world, called The Jetsons. And they were flying around in their little flying motor cars, and they would park in these carports that were in these buildings, and they would walk in and they would say, okay, food, and different things would happen in the kitchen, and voice recognition. We're practically at that point now. But you know, I thought for sure when we would reach, this was in the 1960s when that first came out, the Jetsons. Some of you weren't even born yet. But here we are in 2012, and we still haven't harnessed that technology. And I tell you folks, that technology is there to be harnessed, but they want to keep us in a sort of you know, the big oil companies, they want to keep that oil pumping. And when you have technology that doesn't need oil, that's free, you know, there's so many UFO sightings these days, and people are wondering, well, who are these people? Well, yesterday, the Prime Minister of Russia made an announcement to the world. And we have a Russian congregant here, and my wife, who's from Budapest, speaks fluent Russian. And I didn't want to go in this direction for this talk, but I think it'll end up in a good way. The Russian Prime Minister yesterday, and I'm not joking here, made an announcement during a press conference. Someone asked him a question, and the question was, when you take office, his name, my wife corrected me on his name, but what is it?
Medvedev.
Medvedev. And so he was asked this question: when you took office, what were the things that were handed, symbols of power that were handed to you? And this was answered yesterday on December the 8th, and was put on the YouTube. You can go and find it. Just type in Medvedev, and it'll come up. And he said two things: the file of all the nuclear weapons in Russia. He gets the dossier on that, and he said, I get a dossier on the alien invasion that is taken place here on this planet. And he said, well, what do you mean by that? Alien invasion. He says, oh yeah, they're everywhere. And he went on and on. He went on and on about this. I can't really discuss this outwardly because it might cause mass panic with people. You know, it's sort of interesting that it's 2012, and he was referencing also, if you want to get a glimpse of what it's all about, is watch the Men in Black movie series, which is perfect for us because our American press immediately takes that, the UP United Press takes that and says, well, we have a convert now. The Prime Minister Medvedev has become a follower of the Men in Black. And you get a good laugh at it. But you know, the Master said the Roswell incident was a true thing. And when the government tried to covered it up, he said, tell the press that it's not this needs to go out to the world, that there are other life forms besides our own human life form that live on this planet. Someone approached Yogananda and asked him, well, you know, I hear that there's a whole underground civilization of extraterrestrials at Mount Shasta. He says, yeah, you know, I don't want to talk about it much, but yeah, they live up there. My brother, who had a very interesting experience up on Mount Shasta while he was living there in that town, he wanted to go up on the mountain and sleep, spend the night on the mountain one night. So he went up on the mountain, and he was closed his eyes, ready to go to sleep, and he had this interesting phenomenon take place, where when he closed his eyes to go to sleep, he was in a whole nother world. And he saw people walking around in this world it seemed like they were similar to human beings, but different in some regards. And then when he opened his eyes, he was back on the mountain. When he closed his eyes, he was in this other world. That night he didn't get much sleep. He didn't. He was by his campfire, staring at the campfire, freaking out. And saying, well, maybe I took some bad acid. But one last story about Mount Shasta. I had a very close uncle who was coming back from Oregon and was tired, and he stopped in Mount Shasta, and he checked into a motel, and he was suffering. He had a very traumatic experience that he was going through, and he prayed to God, show me, give me a sign of of your presence in my life. And as he laid down to go to sleep after he gave that prayer, he found his body levitating off the bed up to the ceiling and then coming back down again. And he said, Lord, if this is real, show me again this sign of your presence in my life. Levitated off the bed, and then levitated back down. And afterwards, he was so caught up in his mind that he was a PhD in psychology. He couldn't open his heart to that reality that God is, that this was a gift that was given him. And literally, he called it a delusional experience. He told me about it and said that this was a delusional experience and that it absolutely didn't happen. But you know, these things happen because we are a part of a greater reality, this mighty source of all that is. And this mighty source has created not only you on this planet, as Yogananda describes our human existence here on Earth, but there's many other planets to be reincarnated on as souls, where there's life forms very much like this physical body. I was in this movie shoot. It wasn't a movie, it was a TV program that will be shown on PBS with a Dr. Mirdad. This was just a few days ago. And I kept, it was a very interesting program. Dr. Mirdad, he's trying to bring awareness to people on how to eat their water. You know, how many glasses of water are we supposed to consume a day? 8? Yeah. So Dr. Mirdad, his whole philosophy is instead of drinking, trying to consciously drink 8 glasses of water, you eat your water. And how do you eat your water? Well, you know, cucumbers have a lot of water in it, different vegetables and fruit, watermelon, you know, on and on and on. So he's encouraging people to eat more fruits and vegetables. Essentially, that's his thesis. Well, I'm sitting there, and this didn't dawn on me until, you know, I read this report about, what's his name again? Medvedev. This morning. There was a woman who was there who literally looked like an extraterrestrial. I tell you. I kept looking at this woman and looking at her, and she was very peaceful in herself. She was just observing the whole. She never spoke throughout the whole event of this film, but I hope that she was caught on camera, because when this thing comes out on Dr. Mirdad, you'll believe me. We have, what is the expression that we have? I feel like I've come from another planet. How many of you have come from another planet? Keisha. By the way, Keisha will be doing one of his shows this Tuesday. For any of you who are very interested in his acting, he's a great child actor at 18, and he will be doing a one-man show on Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Where? At where?
At the Arena Theater.
The Arena Theater here in Hollywood, and that's on
Las Palmas.
Las Palmas?
Yes.
Yeah. Right near Sunset Boulevard.
Hollywood Boulevard.
One block south of Hollywood Boulevard. Keisha is is an amazing actor. Last year we went to one of his events where he was performing, and it was quite amazing how the capacity of the human brain to retain information and then to recite it back in a creative and expressive way as if it was totally natural. What did Shakespeare say? The whole world is a stage and everyone is playing their part. And that's our purpose, whether you are from another planet or from this planet. Our whole purpose is to awaken our consciousness to the presence of that mighty source of all that is trying to bring harmony and peace and understanding not only to this planet, but to the entire universe. It's our own mistakes that causes the wars and the confusion that we see that is manifesting itself right here and now. I'm an actor myself. I've been doing a little dabbling into the performing arts. A lot of times I get these auditions or casting notices in the mail, and I will see something that says 18 years old, looking for someone who's 18 years, and I'll send them over to vacation. And I think he's auditions for some. But you know, we are all sort of in this drama of creation looking to play a better part. And sometimes we cast ourselves into a film or into a TV show, or maybe to become a businessman. Maybe we lose our jobs and we need to cast ourselves and recreate who we are as human beings. And this recreation process is something that's very essential to the manifestation of God through us. Because God knows every thought that we think. Whether we're looking for companionship or we're looking for a job, need to support ourselves, whatever whatever is in our hearts, God knows. And God will manifest for you if you tune in to that presence within. This is what Christ consciousness is all about. Christ consciousness is the attunement to not the Lord Jesus Christ, although Jesus manifested that consciousness, and you can take his name and you can inwardly chant Jesus, 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 and draw that presence of the Christ consciousness. Or you can take Krishna's name and draw the presence of the Krishna consciousness, the Christ consciousness, or the name of Yogananda. But all these names are just manifestations of that one Lord of Christ consciousness. And that Lord knows everything that you think that's in your heart. He's more dear than the dearest friend that you might have. Closest to your wife or your companion, your partner. And the path of self-realization is all about harnessing that understanding and presence within yourself. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, Jesus said, and all these things shall be added unto you. One of the amazing things that I see in our world today is that the movement toward the church movement is something that is going away. People are getting more to down to earth, living the presence of God and Christ in their lives. Someone gave me a DVD recently from the Foursquare Gospel Church, which is a church movement that was founded by a woman who was very close with Yogananda. Her name was Mary Baker, not Mary Baker Eddy, who was the founder of the Christian Science movement. Amy Semple McPherson. Amy Semple McPherson was a woman who lived here in Los Angeles, and she started this movement which was called the Foursquare Movement. How many of you have heard of that movement? Okay, yeah. Now, Yogananda attended that church and was inspired by this woman, Amy Semple McPherson. And what I'm sharing with you, you can go on and Google Amy Semple McPherson on the internet. On YouTube, they have videos of her. And there's a real inspiration toward her devotion toward Christ Jesus. And her inspiration was so magnetic that it drew the master, Paramahansa Yogananda, to her church. Now, in our sharing yesterday with Swami Kriyananda, who was in India, and he shared with us on the video a Christmas message. What was in that Christmas message? Should we keep that Christmas message a secret? But it's pretty far out for people to come to grips with. When you can think of what Swami said when he said, he asked Yogananda a point-blank question in the ashram. Yogananda said, at the manger, it was the three wise men who came from the east, was none other than the incarnations of Babaji, Lahiri Mahashai, and Sri Teshwar. Those same souls who were born into these bodies, as we described, who were featured on our altar as images of omnipresence on our altar, were the three wise men. Right after Yogananda made that statement, Kriyananda asked him point blank, were you Jesus then? Yogananda's response was very interesting. He said, what difference does it make? God chooses to awaken those who attain to the Christ consciousness that have manifested that consciousness in their lives. And so, although he refused to answer it point blank, many times Yogananda was sort of showing his clairvoyance in relationship to Jesus. For example, in Boston, there's the story of the man who had written a scathing letter to Yogananda saying, why do you promote Jesus Christ in the West? Don't you know that Jesus was a myth made up by man? It didn't exist. And if you go onto certain YouTube pages, you can see, very convincing arguments that Jesus was not real. And that this story of the nativity was manifested in India through Krishna, who was and manifested in the Grecian times and Sumeria and various civilizations and was passed down through various times. But Yogananda prayed to God, I want to meet this man. I want to try to convince him of the power of the Christ. And one day, Yogananda was walking into the Boston Public Library, and I used to live in Rhode Island. We took people on pilgrimages to the various places in Boston that Yogananda lived, the YMCA, the going to Copley Plaza, to the Symphony Hall where he lectured, in various places. And so we took them to the Boston Public Library because Yogananda had this experience where he heard the voice of God say to him, the man is here who wrote you that letter about Jesus not existing. And Yogananda followed the voice and sat next to this fellow, and he said, well, why did you write to me that letter? And the guy looked over at him and said, well, what letter? What are you talking about? The letter in which you wrote that Jesus didn't exist? How did you know I wrote you that letter? By the same power that has guided me here today to you, by that same power, I testify that Jesus was a true Son of God and he did exist. Now that Christ consciousness, that intuitive perception of being one with God led Yogananda to this man. That same power is what is something that we can draw on right here and now, which is the true meaning of Christmas. This is your Christmas tree. This body is your Christmas tree, and it's up to us to turn on the lights and decorate it. And to celebrate this second coming of Christ within yourself. This is what Jesus meant. Yeah, last night we had our little party, and what's the boy's name? The little boy? Himraj. King of the Himalayan snow. Himraj was playing with the Christmas tree. He just couldn't believe it. How all these bulbs and lights, and started breaking all the bulbs. Couldn't keep his hands off the bulbs and lights. That fascination, or that Christmas tree that he held outwardly, is something that we need to cultivate for the fascination of that inner Christmas tree of Christ consciousness, that we decorate it with devotion, with the light bulbs of devotion, that we decorate it through the daily practice of Kriya Yoga and turn on the lights. I had an amazing conversation with Swamiji back in 2004 in India, and I could not figure out what Swamiji was talking about. He said to me, "Ram, I want you to sing popular songs. I want you to go out and sing songs that are not just my own, but popular songs, and make them real to people. Because there are some popular songs that have a very deep, personal, devotional, spiritual meaning." And I said, "Well, yeah, Swamiji, like what?" "Well, like this song." Not by Cole Porter. This is a black musician who was a very famous jazz musician, who's Cole Porter. And Swamiji began to sing this song. "Night and day, you are the one. Night and day, under the moon and sun." And I kept thinking, why is he singing this to me? Recently, when Dikshini and I moved back from Rhode Island to Los Angeles, we stopped at a pawn shop in Sedona, Arizona, and we found the music of Night and Day in that pawn shop. And I thought, I can't pass this up. This is a tune that was written back in the 1940s, and here is an original copy of the sheet music for this song. So the other day, I went to YouTube, and I said, well, let me learn this song. So I Googled Night and Day. It's amazing how you can go onto YouTube and, type in Night and Day, and here is Fred Astaire singing Night and Day. And the way it starts out is very interesting, and I'd like to share that with you because I'd never heard it before. Like the beat, beat, beat of the tom-tom when the jungle shadows fall, like the tick-tick-tock of the stately clock when it stands against the wall, like the drip, drip, drip of the raindrop when the rain begins to fall. That voice within me saying, you, night and day, you are the one. Night and day, under the moon and sun. And it goes on in that way. But Swamiji was telling me this to sing that to Divine Mother, to sing that to God. And you know how we get fascinations in our lives? We get fascinated by this thing on the internet or that thing, or whatever we're doing in our lives, how many of us are getting fascinated with that pulsating beat within us, that beat, beat, beat of the tom-tom of God wanting to manifest Christ consciousness within you? Krishna says, "To he who watches me always, I watch him always. I never lose sight of him, and he never loses sight of me for all eternity." That's the journey that we're on, folks. And it doesn't matter if you die and you're reborn on this planet or some other planet. The same realities are true. I remember when we first bought East West Bookshop back in 1980. And we had bought East West Bookshop in Nevada, up in Menlo Park, California. And it was really quite a novelty for Ananda to buy this bookstore. Swamiji had walked into the store, and the woman who owned it said, "I'm thinking of selling my store, and I want you all at Ananda to buy it." And it was really the most prominent bookstore in California, still is. And one of the books that, when I first went into the store, I saw was a book on, again, going back to extraterrestrial contact here on Earth. But what was unique about this book, and I'm sorry I never purchased it because it was such graphic presentation of these flying saucers. This man from Austria was contacted by extraterrestrials, and they said, "We want you to take photographs of our spacecraft." And the entire book is like, photographs of extraterrestrial spacecraft, like right outside the door type thing. And he's interviewing these so-called spacemen, and they're saying, "We are no different than you on this planet. You're no different." Those men and women who've awakened to the highest point of enlightenment, or Christ consciousness, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, on and on, are revered in our world, on our planets, just as much as they are on yours. And I thought, wow, that's the link, that's the missing link. Because this concept of Christ consciousness of Christmas that we're on the verge of celebrating here at the end of the Mayan calendar. At the end of the Mayan calendar, and I was talking with Krishna Kashi Raja yesterday, and about, through your astrological, he's an astrologer, and I said, from your astrological calculations, is the world going to end? He says it's not going to end probably in this concept that we, maybe people are prophesizing in terms of apocalypse. But maybe the old way of doing things will begin to end. And I was thinking maybe that's the beginning of our, our space travel through the Jetsons set. But this concept of Christ consciousness is revered throughout the universe. And we're here, we drop our bodies. Who are you going to be in your next life? It really doesn't matter as long as you plant the seeds today. And that's why we're here, is to celebrate the Christmas. I'd like to read from the Whispers from Eternity as a closing. And this is Master's prayer poem entitled, Demand for the Removal of the Veils of Illusion. Veils surround me, Father, hiding thee from me. I love the dainty colored veils of roses and daisies. the shining veils of clouds, of burning gold, the dark star-decked shawl of the night. But how long wilt thou remain hidden behind these veils? I love them because they hint at thy presence, yet still they hide thee. I long to see thee as thou art, behind all this cover of veils. I long to see thee as thou art, behind all this thy cover of veils. I want to just also share with you this reading from Roger C.'s book. This is, I think, a very poignant message, not only for Roger C., who attained the Christ consciousness, but for all of us. Roger C. Yogananda, for those who don't know, was Yogananda's most advanced disciple in his lifetime. And his name was James Lynn, and SRF put out this book, Roger C. Yogananda, a great Western yogi. And there's letters from Yogananda to Roger C. in this book. And I'd like to read this one paragraph to you. And it's really a message for all of us, not just Roger C. I cannot express my joy to know how Buddha-like you are, how more and more internally and externally giving yourself for this work. I have given everything, so are you, a true comrade born out of my prayers. Divine Mother, send my own unto me, who would first be devoted unto thee and me, and then materially to carry on this work, unselfishly, without egotism or pride. When I think of it, that my prayers were consciously answered in you, I become overwhelmed with joy, and tears trickle from my eyes. Think, the unmaterial became material, and you have become the chosen instrument of the divine to be able to do such mighty work here and in America. Many wished for that role, but you were chosen. Think how the divine is not only with you, but constantly doing great work through you. All my demands through the divine you have graciously answered. I am happy beyond dreams. It is wonderful to be able to do such teamwork. To God's stallions, power divine and spirituality combined, together pulling the chariot of the Guru's work, which will carry many souls out of the Hades of horror and sorrow to the paradise of peace and freedom. This particular passage from this book, I highly recommend that you get a copy of this book. How many of you have a copy? Okay, yeah. Because it's really something to read and meditate on, the letters from Yogananda to Roger C. We're at a turning point here in our movement at Ananda, LA, and tomorrow we're having, there's a hearing down at the City Hall whether this church, which is in escrow right now, will allow to go through the escrow and complete itself as a sound studio. We'll see what Divine Mother has in store. If the city says no, we're going to keep churches, that churches are a necessity in this holy city of Benares of the West, and we need to maintain churches in this town. It's the basis of this town, of Los Angeles, the spirituality of this town. Then we might have a chance in making this our church home. What we offered up to Divine Mother and Guru, because they know what we need at the time we need it. So keep that in your thoughts and prayers for today and tonight, and we'll see what the journey brings. Anyway, the most important point in this message of practicing the presence of God is the song that Yogananda wrote. My Lord, I will be thine always. I may go far, farther than the stars. Not just this galaxy, folks, but many galaxies we can be born on. I may go far, farther than the stars, but Lord, I will be thine always. Devotees may come and devotees may go, but Lord, I will be thine always. And when I die, look into my eyes. They will mutely say, I have been thine always. I will be thine always. God bless you on your journey.
Strong.